She was beaten for refusing a forced marriage, but no one could have predicted what would happen next. Standing at the altar, her body bruised, her spirit broken, Claire was about to become a bride against her will. Her father had arranged it, her mother had stayed silent, and the entire town had turned a blind eye to her suffering. The man she was meant to marry, Marcus, was wealthy, respected, but cold. He was a stranger to her heart, and that alone made her heart ache with a fear she couldn't voice. On the wedding day, the ceremony began, and Claire stood there, trembling, waiting for it to be over, knowing that her life, as she knew it, was slipping away. As the officiant asked, "If anyone has any lawful reason," there was a heavy silence. Then, to everyone's surprise, a quiet figure from the back of the room stood up. It was Thomas, a simple woodcutter. He was no one, no hero in anyone's eyes, but in that moment he was the only one who saw Claire. He didn't shout, he didn't demand. He just walked up, looked Marcus in the eye, and said one thing: "She's coming with me." Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Nandala was a woman who had never truly belonged to the life others wanted for her. Strong-willed, independent, and full of fire, she had always questioned the world around her, but now she found herself standing at the precipice of a decision that could either bind her forever or set her free. Her father had made it clear: she was to marry Imbui, a man who offered her nothing but security. Imbui's wealth was unquestioned, his land expansive, but his heart? Empty. He was a man of convenience, of tradition, and of cold ambition. To her father, that was enough. To Nandala, it was a sentence, a fate she couldn't accept, but one she knew she would be forced into. Nandala had always dreamed of a life where her heart could roam free, but instead, she was facing a life of silence and submission. Her father, a man known for his honor in the village, had arranged the marriage without asking for her opinion. And her mother, though loving, was too afraid to stand against the weight of tradition. Nandala was alone, surrounded by people who called her rebellious for wanting something more than what was being handed to her. She stood at the edge of a life she didn't choose, but one she feared she would have to accept. If she stayed, she would be trapped in a loveless marriage, a mere piece in someone else's game. If she left, she would face the consequences of defying her family, her community, and the only life she had ever known. But somewhere, beyond the village, in the outskirts where no one cared to look, there was a man named Omari, a simple woodcutter, often dismissed by the villagers, yet in his silence there was a depth that most never saw. Omari had always kept to himself. He wasn't a man who spoke much, but in his quiet solitude he had witnessed the injustices of the world from a distance. He saw the brokenness that others pretended not to notice. Omari wasn't one to meddle in the affairs of the village. He kept his distance, offering wood to the market and keeping to the forest's edge. But there was something in Nandala's eyes that haunted him. Her defiance, her courage, it spoke to him in a way no one else did. He could see the pain she carried, the fight in her that no one would recognize until it was too late. In a way, Omari understood her more than anyone could ever imagine. He knew what it was like to be an outsider. He had grown up with nothing but the forest as his guide, raised by the winds and the trees, never asking for anything from anyone. He had no family to speak of, no legacy to protect. He was a man of few words, but those who knew him understood that he was a man of deep resolve. He wasn't just a woodcutter. He was a man who believed in doing what was right, no matter the cost. For Omari, this wasn't just about the marriage. It wasn't about standing up to a man or a tradition. It was about standing up for Nandala, for her right to choose, for her right to live a life that wasn't dictated by others. His decision to act would not come from a place of heroism, but from something deeper, a quiet sense of justice that had always rested in his chest. He had seen enough in his life to know that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could be the most powerful. And now, as he stood on the edge of the village, watching the scene unfold before him, he knew that this was his moment. The stakes were high, and the consequences for Nandala were dire. If she stayed, she would lose her soul, her voice, and her chance at happiness. If she left, she would be cast out, branded a disgrace by the very people who had once called her daughter. The village's expectations were clear. A woman like Nandala didn't get to choose her future. She was to be molded by the traditions of her ancestors, even if that meant sacrificing her own desires, her own humanity. Everything she had ever known was about to change, and her fate rested on the edge of a single decision. Omari wasn't just a quiet observer of life's injustices. He was a man who knew when to act. And as the wedding day loomed, he realized that it was time to stand up for the life that Nandala could have, one where her heart was free. What was about to unfold would change everything. And with that, Omari's moment to step in was approaching faster than he could have ever imagined. The quiet man from the edge of the woods was about to become the force that defied it all. As the wedding day draws closer, Nandala's world begins to close in around her. She feels it in her chest, that tight, suffocating pressure, as if the weight of the village's expectations has become a physical burden she can't escape. Her mind is racing, but each thought is clouded by the same overwhelming truth: she's trapped. The days leading up to the ceremony are spent in a haze of nervous dread. The words of her father echo in her mind, his approval of the marriage a verdict she's powerless to change. "This is the life you will lead," he had told her, as if it were a decree, not a choice. "You will marry Imbui. It's the best you can hope for." But Nandala's heart is fighting back, telling her that this isn't the life she was meant to lead. Her heart belongs to no man she has never chosen, and certainly not to one who only sees her as an object to secure his status. Yet the walls are closing in. Her father's voice, her mother's silence, the village's unspoken pressure, all telling her to submit, to stay quiet, to endure. The night before the wedding, Nandala lies awake on the cold floor of her small room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the distant sounds of the village settling down for the night. Her thoughts are scattered, every minute feeling like an eternity. What happens if I refuse? She wonders. The image of her father's disappointed face fills her mind, the one man who should have protected her, who is instead the one pushing her into this life. And her mother, who watches silently, as if her daughter's pain is something she cannot see. Her father's words are so final. "This is the way it is. You are my daughter. You will do as I say." They are meant to be comforting, but they feel like chains. As Nandala stands before the altar the next morning, her heart races, and the weight of the moment feels unbearable. The villagers gather around, their eyes fixed on her, whispering among themselves. No one speaks to her, no one meets her gaze, as if acknowledging her pain would make it real. The officiant's voice rings out, dull and formal. "If anyone has any lawful reason why this couple should not be wed, let them speak now." Nandala stands frozen, feeling as though the world is holding its breath. The silence is deafening. But it's not the silence of tradition, not the silence of reverence. It's the silence of fear. The fear of what will happen if she says no, if she dares to defy everything she's been taught. She feels the eyes of the entire village on her, each one silently waiting for her to fall into line. Imbui, standing beside her, doesn't even look at her. His eyes are already on the prize, the wealth, the security, the life they've all convinced themselves is right. For him, this is just another deal to be made. For Nandala, this is her very soul at stake. And in that heavy silence, something shifts. What no one knows is that Omari, the quiet woodcutter from the outskirts, has been watching. From the back of the room, he stands quietly, unseen by most. He has no family, no ties to the village's ways. Yet, as he watches Nandala's face, he feels her pain, her struggle. He knows what she's facing, the kind of quiet battle that no one else will ever see. Omari has seen what happens when people are too afraid to act, when they stay silent because the weight of tradition is too heavy to fight. But he knows something about silence that the villagers don't. Silence doesn't always mean submission. Sometimes it means waiting for the right moment to speak, and for Omari, that moment has arrived. He's made his decision, though it is one he knows will change everything. But what will he do? As Nandala's hand trembles slightly as she stands at the edge of a decision that could cost her everything, she looks to her father. His face is set, unreadable. He stands firm, the pillar of tradition. And in that moment, all the love Nandala had once felt for him seems to evaporate. He's not the protector she once thought him to be. "You've brought shame upon us," her father growls, his voice sharp, cruel. His words pierce deeper than any physical blow could. "You've shamed your family, your village. You have no right to defy me." For a moment, Nandala feels her strength slip. But then something shifts inside her, something that had been dormant for so long, buried beneath years of submission and fear. It's not just her father's words that sting. It's the finality in his eyes. The look he gives her says it all. "I'm done with you. You no longer matter to me." Her heart clenches, but there's no time to wallow in the pain. The eyes of the village are on her, their judgment as heavy as the walls of her father's house. The life they want for her, the life they think she should lead, is suffocating. But for the first time, Nandala doesn't care what they think. "If I say no, I lose everything," she thinks. "If I say yes, I lose myself." And just as the crowd braces for her submission, the moment when they all expect her to give in, everything changes. Omari steps forward, slowly, deliberately. He doesn't make a sound, but the room goes quiet. The murmurs die down as all eyes turn to him. With one simple movement, Omari walks to the front of the room and stands directly in front of Nandala. The officiant's voice falters, confusion spreading through the crowd. Omari doesn't look at anyone else. He doesn't need to. He only looks at Nandala, his gaze steady, sure. And then, in a calm, unwavering voice, he speaks. "She's coming with me." The room holds its breath. No one dares to move, to speak. And in that single moment, everything changes. In that instant, when all hope seemed lost, and every path ahead appeared to be blocked by tradition, by fear, and by the cold indifference of the village, Omari steps forward. His movement is quiet, deliberate, almost as if he were stepping into a world that no one else could see. The room falls into a stunned silence as his words, simple yet powerful, break the stillness. "She's coming with me." There's no threat in his voice, no anger. There's only certainty. And in that certainty, something shifts. For the first time, Nandala feels something inside her stir, something she hasn't felt in years, hope. It's not loud or bold, but it's there. For the first time, she doesn't feel alone. For the first time, she doesn't feel like she's being dragged by the weight of a fate she didn't choose. She feels as though someone, a stranger, has seen her. The room remains frozen, as if time itself is unsure whether to move forward or stand still. The villagers are in shock. Her father's face contorts with disbelief. His jaw tightens, eyes narrowing as though he can't comprehend what's happening. Imbui stands frozen, his smile slipping, his hands clenching into fists at his sides, unsure whether to challenge Omari or step back and let the strange man take what was never his to claim. But no one dares to stop him. Omari is calm, unmoved by their judgment. It's as if he knows what he's doing is right, and nothing else matters. For Nandala, everything changes in that moment. She has been living in the shadow of the village's expectations, of her father's indifference, of the looming promise to a man she barely knew. But in Omari's quiet defiance, she sees a different path, a path that promises freedom, even if it's uncertain. She feels a surge of emotion rise within her, a mix of relief and something else, something she can't quite put into words. She's not sure where she's going or what she's stepping into, but for the first time, she believes she's walking towards something better. As Omari turns and begins to walk away, Nandala's heart pounds in her chest. She knows what she's leaving behind, her family, her village, the life she was supposed to have, and the weight of it all presses down on her. But the fear is different now. It isn't the crushing fear of submission, of living a life forced upon her. It's the fear of the unknown, of stepping into a future that's completely hers to shape, and in that fear, there's freedom. She hesitates for only a moment, then looks at her father once more. His eyes burn with anger, but there's nothing left in them. Nothing she recognizes. He is no longer her protector. In that moment, she realizes he never truly was. This is what it feels like to be free, she thinks. Nandala follows Omari, and with each step she can feel the weight of the village's judgment on her back. They're watching her, talking in hushed voices, whispering among themselves as she walks past them, but she doesn't look back. Not once. She's walking away from the life she was forced into, towards something unknown, but something that is hers. Omari doesn't say a word. He doesn't need to. His presence speaks for him, a silent strength that reassures her, even without a single glance. What does Omari see in her? Why has he chosen to act, she wonders. She's always been told she's nothing but a burden to her father, a means to an end for the village. And yet here is this man, a stranger to her, who sees something worth protecting, worth standing up for. What makes him different? Why him? Her thoughts swirl, but there's one thing she knows for sure. She's no longer just a pawn in someone else's game. She's a person, a woman who has the power to choose, and with that knowledge, her heart begins to settle, even in the uncertainty of it all. If this part is making sense, drop a comment with, "I'm still here." Let's see who's really watching to this point. As the days pass, the village begins to feel the weight of what has happened. Omari's simple act of stepping into the wedding and taking Nandala with him has sent ripples through the tightly knit community. At first there's silence, a stunned disbelief that something so unexpected could happen, but that silence quickly shifts to whispers. The villagers start to talk. Some praise Omari, calling him brave for defying tradition, for standing up when no one else would. They see him as a quiet hero, a man who has shown Nandala the courage to live her truth. But then there are others who question his motives. What's really driving him? Is this compassion for a woman in need, or is it something deeper? Is there something he sees in Nandala that no one else does? Some gossip in hushed tones, speculating that Omari isn't acting out of mere kindness, but perhaps out of some deeper, unspoken desire. His act of heroism, once seen as a selfless gesture, now feels murkier to many. Was it truly an act of rescue? Or was it a quiet desire for ownership, an unspoken wish to claim what had always been denied to him, someone who could see him for what he was and maybe even want him in return? And in that confusion, Nandala is left wondering, was Omari's kindness truly for me, or was it for something else entirely? She's never been the type to doubt others, but for the first time she feels unsettled by the possibility that there may be hidden agendas, even in the kindness of the quietest man. Her healing, the slow mending of her heart and body, is overshadowed by the growing tension around her. Omari, though nothing more than a stranger, has taken up residence in her life. Every passing day seems to magnify the weight of his presence. The villagers don't understand him, nor do they fully accept his intervention. The whispers of the town aren't just about her defiance, they're about him. They call him the man from the woods, the quiet outsider who doesn't belong. They see his silence as mysterious, perhaps even dangerous. The very fact that Omari has taken Nandala away from the village is a mark of rebellion, one that cannot be ignored. As Nandala grows stronger, her sense of independence blooms. She begins to speak her mind, to make choices, and for the first time in her life, she experiences what it's like to be free. But freedom comes with its own set of challenges. Her heart wrestles with the guilt of rejecting her family, of turning her back on everything she once knew. She feels torn between the loyalty to the people who raised her and the growing realization that her true path lies somewhere else, somewhere with Omari, in the quiet freedom of the woods, away from the village's harsh gaze. Her father's words still ring in her ears. "You have brought shame upon us." The guilt lingers, and sometimes, in the quiet moments of reflection, she wonders if she's made the right choice. Could she have stayed and found peace within the confines of tradition, despite the crushing weight of it? Or was this new life with Omari the only path that would allow her to truly breathe? But as Nandala starts to find peace in her new life, the village is uneasy. They are uncomfortable with the change. The fabric of their lives is being pulled, and they can feel it. The villagers are not used to such rebellion, not in the way Nandala has chosen to live. Her defiance has shaken them, and now they begin to turn on her, whispers turning to judgments, glances turning to glares. The quiet tension that once existed in the shadows of the village now flares up in open discomfort. They talk about Nandala, about Omari. They speculate about what could have possibly drawn her to him, a man with nothing but the simple life of the woods. The women in the village look at Nandala with pity, some with envy, others with disdain. They wonder, does she not care about what we think? Doesn't she know she's alone now? But for Nandala, it's not about caring what they think anymore. It's about something much deeper. It's about choosing herself. Choosing a life that is hers to live, not one dictated by the expectations of others. But as the tension between her and the villagers grows, so does the conflict within her own heart. Her loyalty to her family, her heritage, still pulls at her, even as her independence grows stronger with each passing day. Omari, too, begins to feel the pressure. He's not a man who seeks attention, yet his very presence has changed everything. The village is no longer indifferent to him. They watch him, whisper about him when he's not around, question his motives when he's present. And with every passing day, the question grows louder. Why did he help Nandala? Some say it's love, others say it's pity, but no one truly knows. As Nandala starts to understand herself, to grow into the woman she has always wanted to be, she faces a stark realization. Her life will never be the same. It can never go back to the way it was before. Her decision to leave, to defy her father in the village, has changed the course of her destiny. But she's not sure where that path will lead. There's a weight to independence that she hadn't fully understood before. There's no turning back. The fear of her father's disapproval, of the village's judgment, is now matched by the realization that she's living a life few would ever dare to. She's living in the gray area, where no one's rules apply, and where the future is uncertain. The stakes are higher than ever. If she chooses to stay with Omari, she risks forever being labeled an outcast, a woman who defied not just her family, but everything that everyone else holds sacred. If she returns to the village, she'll lose herself, her autonomy, and the very thing that Omari's presence gave her, the power to choose. Her past is tugging at her, and the weight of it feels heavier than it ever has. What will she do? What's more important, loyalty to a family who never understood her, or the chance at a life where she is free to make her own choices, free to love, free to exist as her true self? Her journey is only just beginning, and though she doesn't know it yet, the real challenge lies ahead. As the days unfold, Nandala's life begins to change in ways she never imagined. At first, she had been unsure, uncertain of what awaited her when she left the village. She had felt like a bird leaving the safety of its nest, vulnerable, exposed, not knowing what the world outside would bring. But with each passing day, something shifts inside her. The tension she had carried for so long, the weight of expectations, the suffocating grasp of tradition, begins to fade. She no longer feels as though she's merely surviving. Now, for the first time, she feels as though she's truly living. Omari, though a man of few words, shows her something profound. He doesn't rush her, doesn't pressure her to change, but through his silent actions, he teaches her what it means to be free. The quiet rhythm of his days, the way he moves through the world with no need for approval, no fear of judgment, becomes a model for Nandala. She learns to take each moment as it comes, to live simply, without the burden of what others think or expect. At first, she stayed by Omari's side out of necessity. She had nowhere else to go, no other option. But as the weeks pass, something shifts within her. She no longer stays out of necessity. She stays because she wants to. She stays because she's found a space where she can breathe, where her heart no longer feels bound by chains of fear and duty. She's found a place where she can be herself, unapologetically, freely, without the weight of the past pushing her down. Omari's presence has become a quiet anchor in her life, but it's not his silence that keeps her there. It's the respect he shows her, the dignity with which he treats her. He doesn't need to speak loudly to prove his worth. His actions, simple, steady, reliable, speak volumes. In Omari's company, Nandala learns that love doesn't have to be loud or grand to be real. Love doesn't have to come with promises or rings or declarations. Sometimes love is as simple as the way he hands her a piece of bread without asking for anything in return. It's in the way he tends to their small home in the woods, with care and consistency, never expecting praise, never needing recognition. As Nandala finds her voice, she begins to realize something she hadn't known before. Her strength doesn't come from defying her father or the village. It comes from choosing herself. She begins to understand that the true power she's been seeking isn't in escaping her past, but in embracing the freedom to be who she is, to live the life she deserves. In Omari's quiet presence, she finds not just safety, but something more, a kind of peace she never thought possible. In the humble hut deep in the woods, Nandala has found what she never thought she would: peace. There are no grand gestures, no promises of a perfect future, no grand ceremony to mark her new life. There is only the simplicity of shared days, of waking up to the sound of birds outside the window, of sitting by the fire with Omari, quietly exchanging the day's tasks. It's a life that is far from perfect, but it is real. And in that reality, Nandala finds strength, not in the absence of pain, but in the quiet, unshakable truth that she now has the freedom to choose her own path. She reflects on the journey that brought her here, the fear she once had, the uncertainty, the shame she carried like a cloak. But now, when she looks back, she realizes that none of that matters anymore. What matters is that she's standing on her own, stronger than she ever knew she could be. She's found a life that's hers, one that's been built not on the expectations of others, but on the simple, profound decision to live for herself. And in this simple, quiet life, Nandala has discovered that the strength she once thought was lacking inside her was there all along. It wasn't in the noise of rebellion or in defying her family's expectations. It was in her choice, the choice to say no to a life she didn't want, and the choice to walk away from the things that had kept her from truly living. What do you think really happened to Nandala? Was it fate that led her to Omari, or was it her strength that changed everything? Let me know what you think in the comments. As Nandala's story comes to a close, one thing becomes clear. Sometimes the most difficult decisions lead to the most powerful transformations. She's walked away from everything she knew, faced the judgments of a village that once loved her, and found the courage to choose a life that truly belongs to her. And in doing so, she discovered that the strength to live authentically doesn't come from the world around us. It comes from within. If this story hit you like it did us, hit that like button. It helps us reach more people, so we can keep bringing you real, emotional stories that resonate and make us think. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more gripping stories like this one. We're so grateful to have you as part of our community, and we can't wait to share more with you. Thank you for watching and for being a part of this journey with us.